All right, welcome to my channel, Re-Vera. My name is Steve, and holy shit, I woke up and checked Twitter, and stuff keeps getting worse and worse. So let me try to encapsulate where we're at for people who haven't been following Twitter, because crazy shit be going on. Let me change my screen. There we go. Okay. Hello. Welcome. As I'm sure as I hope you all know, as of yesterday, Trump said he was designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. Should be pretty obvious that's a problem for a whole bunch of reasons. Most importantly, I should just, anyway, you can see the tweet yourself. It's easy. Antifa is just people who oppose fascism. That is all it is. There are Antifa organizations, but there is not one Antifa organization. So you can't just designate all of Antifa as a terrorist organization when most of them oppose fascism through legal and constitutionally protected means. So right there, that's incredibly fascist and extremely concerning. Because when you're designated as a terrorist, you lose all your constitutional rights. So even if you disagree with Antifa, you should have a problem with this. I don't know what else she's tweeted lately, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Shoe on Head is a perfect example. She actually, mad credit to her. She was condemning, here. She doesn't like Antifa, but she's condemning the idea of making them terrorists because, obviously, all that's doing is calling your political opposition terrorists. This is not trending toward fascism. That is fascism. We are now in fascism. So, that was yesterday. Today, I woke up to where are the protesters trending, and was trying to figure that out. We're gonna go through a bunch of the Twitter, and I want to record stuff so it's there. But as far as I can figure, I collated some of the pictures here. There's a whole bunch of people protesting at the White House, thousands, and they broke through the fence, the barricade. They might have lit a guardhouse on fire. Trump was in the bunker. Pretty crazy shit. But what's even crazier is the last tweets that came out before the DC blackout started were of the military with silencers on their weapon. And chaos. And they were clearly getting ready to do something. Then all of a sudden, blackout. And I don't just mean power. I mean there was no internet. Nothing came in and out of that area for like 6-8 hours at all. And all the protesters disappeared. Like literally, they're gone. Nobody knows what happened to them. Yeah, so this has been trending. I'm not an expert on how Twitter works, but the trend keeps resetting, and it keeps disappearing and going down. But there's been probably millions of tweets asking where are the protesters at this point, and I haven't seen any media coverage on it there except for people denying it. There's massive. Let's just start getting into it. So I have no idea if the DC blackout or where the protesters are real. But it's interesting. You click on the link and it takes you something went wrong. Now this is a huge problem. Somebody is deleting a ton of videos and tweets, and that's why I wanted to record all this myself, because I'm not just streaming, I'm recording. So once I have it, I'll have it. But I don't know if it's Twitter. I don't know if it's the government. I don't know if it's hackers. All I know is stuff's disappearing. And again, if they're shooting rubber bullets, if they're prepared for protesters, why do they have silencers? That's not something you do. They were getting ready to shoot people. Now this was from somebody apparently in the area, and again, we need journalists to cover this. Is this true? Like, can we interview people who are in the area? I wouldn't call it a gunshot or a bomb. It sounded like a bag of popcorn that burst in the microwave, just much, much bigger. It was preceded and followed by a droning siren. The whole thing lasted about 45 minutes. It sounded like an emergency siren, but it wasn't any that I recognized. Wondering if I'm crazy or if that actually happened. I'm in DC right now, and oh my god, they jammed phones. Everything is jammed. I repeat, get away from shootings, killings, DC protests, DC blackout. Go home, sleep with one eye open. Seems to be people who are on the fringes of the protests and got out were able to tweet some stuff once they got out, but there's not much confirming anything. This is live camera feeds in Washington, D.C., and you can see at this time a whole bunch of them were down. They're not supposed to be, ever. Why is that? Now, this is another very concerning thing. And I've seen this myself. It's not just a video or screen caps of Twitter. These are actual, like, you can see the tweets. They're copy-pasted. They're all the same, but from multiple accounts. That's a botnet. And they're all trying to say, everything's fine. The protesters went home and were sleeping. That's why everything stopped. But you don't have thousands of people escalating chaos and then dead silence for 6 hours because they all went home and are sleeping. That's ridiculous. That's a botnet. Okay, that doesn't really shed any lights on anything. I live in DC. I just tweeted several stuff and they all got deleted. I can't use Snap. I can't use any social media. They just say error. I'm using a VPN right now, and all I hear is gunshots, and I see police everywhere. Stay safe. This is terrifying. That was 5:43 a.m. apparently. I looked at that. Just look through some of my tweets because I retweeted a bunch of stuff. This is the only right approach to a protest that's about police brutality. You can't stop people protesting about police brutality with police brutality. That's literally trying to put fire out with gasoline, and that's really dumb, obviously. But in Flint, the police chief took off his helmet, put down his baton, talked to the people, and then asked them what they wanted, and they chanted, "Walk with us," and then him and his police officers walked with the protesters, standing with them. Pretty sure they didn't have any violence in Flint. That's what everybody should be doing. Any cops, anybody in a position of authority, we should be tweeting this kind of stuff to them, adding them, and asking for them to take that approach, because it's the only reasonable approach. Tweeting at Twitter because these things keep being taken down. This was one of the last tweets that came out before it stopped. You can't expect this was all happening and then this happens and then everybody stops completely on social media. Can't expect us to believe that. I wish I was a fucking journalist. Obviously, the problem with Twitter is, there's so much unverified shit out there. So, this could be an image from 3 years ago. 2 cops just happened to be there and somebody dropping off bricks. Except there's a lot of protesters who have been saying they've seen racks of bricks just laying beside the street where they're going down the roads protesting. Isn't that fucking weird? In fact, I wonder if I could find it. I was protesting yesterday. It was during the day. Everything was entirely 100% peaceful. But the interesting thing to me was as we marched all the way down Main Street, it started off as a couple hundred people, ended up as a couple thousand. Massive solidarity. Everybody we were passing was like honking their horns and raising their fists, and almost everybody was very supportive. Even though people are obviously waiting at stop lines for thousands of people to go past, they were all showing support. So it was a wonderful thing. I was very optimistic. You had all these normies that weren't expecting anything, just walking down the street and like filming everything, and that they were uploading it. That's what you need. It's just everyone in Santa Rosa is going to know that we stood for justice. And that's a good thing. And they're going to know that it was peaceful. Until, of course, it wasn't. Because Santa Rosa was trending yesterday because apparently during the night, there was tear gas deployed, there was people wounded, there was a truck that ran through protesters, all kinds of shit. Anyway, my point was, if I could only find a video that showed it, when we got to the police station, they obviously knew we were coming. There wasn't a single policeman in sight except for 3 on the roof. And no, not that one. Not that one. The whole parking lot was entirely empty. Except for one police car. So they had time to pull everything out, take positions on the roof, clear everything, put up barricades around the door. But they left one cop car in the parking lot. Here. Did you see that? Yeah, it's right there. That's the one cop car. This is me filming. This is Santa Rosa. So I know that happened. Now why is that a problem? Well, it's obviously bait. They're obviously hoping somebody smashes the glass on it, destroys it, lights it on fire, because that justifies them retaliating. Like, why else would you leave an expensive cop car just sitting there? Now, fortunately, everybody knew it was bait. We were at the police station for probably 45 minutes, then we went to the jailhouse, then we went back. Cop car didn't have a scratch on it when I left, because we all fucking knew it was bait. But when I see that myself, and then I see people tweeting that the police are escorting bricks to drop off at the protests, I am not all that skeptical. Yeah, the scrimmaginges, they had a pallet of bricks in front of the Chicago courthouse with no construction in the area. What a coincidence. Here, I can pull the chat over, I think. Where'd it go? All right. Let's get to some more cool evidence. Not so cool evidence. Oh, shit. See? I tweeted that. Now it's gone. If you didn't think they're deleting tweets. Hello. Camera's supposed to be working. No, they're not. People who were there got their phones jammed and then the account deleted. Covered that stuff, covered that stuff. That was one of the last videos out. Look at this. This person tweets this. They're out here deleting videos. What the fuck? So they blacked out everything, shut down the internet so nobody could communicate. And then they were seizing phones and deleting videos off them. This person manages to get this out, probably had a VPN or something. And then the next tweet they send out is the same copy-pasted one that's all over the place with the botnet. I don't know if you can read this. Yeah, this is the tweet. It's like, you can search it, and there's thousands of people saying the exact same thing. Yeah, as someone seeing DC blackout trending, who lives and works in the DC metro area, and who has friends telecommuting into DC right now, this hashtag looks like misinformation. No social media from DC because we were asleep. Stop scaring people. Right after this other tweet. Now, does that look real to you? After fighting with cops and Secret Service outside the White House, protesters successfully breached the fence, set the guardhouse on fire, and fought with cops on the White House lawn. The White House went dark for the first time since the 1880s. According to the press, President Trump is still in the bunker. I can't find any coverage of this. This has been trending all morning, and it keeps getting moved down the trending list and then comes back up. Oh, this little meme I made. This is actually my grandfather. That's actually a picture of him. He fought in World War II. This picture is actually him fighting the Korean War, but it's a very famous image. And he actually personally was at camps that were freed in World War II. So he never talked about the war. He's one of those, quiet people, didn't want to talk about it. I only ever got him to tell the story of this picture because it was a very famous picture in newspapers all over the country. And he was hit with a mortar, went to the hospital, people screaming and moaning and bleeding all over the place, and nobody around to help. He laid on a cot for 20 minutes. Nobody came to help. He wrapped himself back up and went back out to his men because he was a sergeant with an anti-aircraft unit, and he was the spotter. And then, a war journalist came by and took his picture, and it was a really good picture, so he was famous. It's not like this was special because a ton of people did this kind of stuff, but it was just a really good picture. That really triggered my super conservative parents, by the way. Said my grandfather would be rolling over in his graves, and I said he'd be rolling over in their graves, that they're defending a literal fascist right now, is putting people in camps and disappearing people. Anyway, that's the end of that. Let's check the current trends. Oh, this one. So it's trending with Where Are the Protesters, but they got rid of Where Are the Protesters. So let's see what's in DC Blackout right now. It's more of the botnet. It's not okay. Military with silencers in a protest. Yeah, that's bad. Anonymous, if you weren't aware, it was like millions of tweets yesterday. Has come back on the scene, threatening to out Minneapolis State Police, and they did. They shut down their website. They released. You could see the image all over Twitter yesterday. Like 800 usernames and passwords to Minneapolis police emails. And let's see, they hacked the Chicago radios, like the police department radios, so they couldn't communicate, and they were playing "Fuck the Police" over it. Good stuff. Bunch of stuff they've been doing. But apparently Anonymous thinks that all these people disappeared are prisoners. We hope they're prisoners. All right, here we go. This is what's currently happening in DC while service was being shut off. Desktop audio doesn't seem to be working. Can you guys hear the desktop audio or just me? You did hear it. Okay. I never tweeted this. What the fuck? A whole lot of accounts being taken over and stuff tweeted. And again, this is all the exact same tweet from all these different accounts. You can just search part of that phrase to see it. Like, this person searched, has friends telecommunicating. Telecommuting. I mean. This is what the Capitol looked like shortly before the radio silence. There's no way the people that lit the city on fire all collectively decided to be quiet. Exactly. Please keep tweeting about this. We need to keep this hashtag alive. And every time you see any blue check verified Twitter account that's commenting on anything relevant to what riots 2020 whatsoever, comment on them and at them and ask them to investigate. We need a pressure campaign to find out where they are. We need real journalists to find people who were at the protests in DC and what happened to them. Like, where are their family? Like, who are they communicating with? Where are they now? Like, not just one or two, but a whole, like, dozens of them. Like, we need this to be investigated. Because right now, there's so much misinformation, nobody can know anything. Anyway, that's all the information I really found about the DC blackout. I was like, see anything else here real quick. Why is this? Anonymous is trying to say here. Retweeting somebody saying there was no mass scale internet disruption in DC, which fixed line and cellular connectivity. I mean, that might have been for the city as a whole, but not the White House neighborhood. I mean, Anonymous seems to at the same time also think that something did happen there, so that's interesting. Yeah, and that's another possibility. I mean, now they seem to think that there's prisoners, but another possibility is the whole point of this is to instill panic and fear and deter future protests because people think people are getting disappeared. So, who fucking knows what's real anymore? But what I do know is real is shit like this. Tom Cotton, U.S. Senate. If local law enforcement is overwhelmed and needs backup, let's see how tough these Antifa terrorists are when they're facing off the 101st Airborne Division. We need to have zero tolerance for this destruction. Yeah, that's not okay. Like, we're not trending fascist. In the last 48 hours, we've become a fascist country. This was his previous tweet. No quarter for insurrectionists, anarchists, rioters, and looters. That means, no quarter means you can't surrender. They should just be executed. That's what it means. I know he used to be in the Senate. Is he currently in the Senate? Because it says candidate. Yeah, he's currently serving in the Senate. I was like keeping up an online pressure campaign all day yesterday, from when I woke up until about 3 o'clock. Facebook, Twitter, because seeing Trump label Antifa as a terrorist organization is the most concerning thing I've ever seen in this country. And I have to say, what made me stop, I couldn't take it anymore. This was trending yesterday. There's the tweet. United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. So this person tweets, every last soldier who fought in World War I or World War II was Antifa. I am Antifa. Great, another screen crop for the FBI. This was happening all over the place. Every time you found the hashtag, you had people adding it to the FBI. So all I did here is the Philosophy Tube video that has 1 million views. It's not extremist fringe stuff. It's just the philosophy of Antifa. He never like outright says he's Antifa or supports Antifa. He's just talking about it. And I link that, and he says, I hope you serve time for spreading this propaganda at FBI. This is all over the place. Every time you use the hashtag, people are adding the FBI, which I'm not concerned about at this point because it's still not illegal to use a hashtag on Twitter. But what's concerning is that so much of America is so eager to turn us into the state for using our constitutionally protected freedom of speech. Anybody on the right who actually believes in constitutional rights should be protesting with us at this point, because this is unacceptable. When you label Antifa as a terrorist organization, what that means is you don't have any rights anymore, basically. There's a whole lot of debate on what exactly it means, because it's the FBI who labels things that, which, by the way, Trump he is the head of the executive department. He appoints the head of the FBI. So he can have them label them as terrorist organization. It's still different than a foreign designated terrorist organization, which, you can just be disappeared to Guantanamo Bay with no excuses. It's not like you have no rights, but it's going to bring a lot more resources from the FBI on anybody who says they're Antifa. And who knows what else. I mean, it's a first step. But I grew up conservative. And we always talked about, we always glorified people who fought for your right to protest. People who were in the military would say, I fought for your right to burn that flag. And, there's freedom of speech. And even then there was conservatives who, would be like, well, those people are assholes. They shouldn't be able to do that. But there's a lot of conservatives had respect for people using their rights. But now I can't seem to find any conservatives condemning this. When you label people who oppose fascism as terrorists, that is fascism. That's all it is. Because most of Antifa are just people who legally oppose fascism using their constitutional rights to freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and sometimes freedom of press. And they're being designated as terrorists. That's not okay. Even if you disagree with them, even if you think they're overactive, even if you think some of them are criminals, even if you think some of them started damage in riots, that doesn't mean you label the whole organization as terrorist. There's no rational justification for this whatsoever. There's just not. Come expose me. You admit to being fascist. This was on Adam Friended, Twitter's account. And he never replied. He was talking about Shuan Head's take and apparently disagreeing with it, which is amazing. He's supposed to be libertarian, and apparently he supports Trump labeling his dissenting political opposition as terrorists, and he calls himself a libertarian. Whoa. No, the vast majority of them don't use threats of violence to coerce people to bend to their will. Just because some of this happens, like if people break the law, you can prosecute them for breaking the law. Like any Antifa people who break the law know they can be prosecuted. If they assault somebody, if they do a bomb threat, if anything like that, they can be charged and are. That's no excuse for labeling everybody terrorists just because they're Antifa. There's no excuse for that. There's no rationale whatsoever. See, nice middle-aged white woman, heart of America right here, just at FBI. I mean, all I tweeted was that image I already showed you with a picture of my grandfather who fought in World War II. And that's at FBI. At the Justice Department, at FBI. This is all over the place. Now, don't let that stop you, because using a hashtag isn't illegal. And if you've ever posted anything sympathetic to Antifa, you're on the radar anyway. Like, we can't be intimidated and kept from doing this. Let me get caught up on chat here a bit. I'm supposed to be at work an hour and a half ago, and this is just too important. I wanted to record a stream and record a bunch of these tweets that are disappearing while I could at the same time. But can't be here too long. Nobody's texted me yet, so I'm good. DC blackout trending in UK with 635,000 tweets. Awesome. Definitely deleting tweets. Definitely covering stuff up. Well, it's not just Cotton promoting the use of U.S. troops on American citizens. That was Trump's the one who started this. The rest of the sycophants just join in. I'm sure you all know about what he's been saying, but let's get caught up on what the idiot fascist-in-chief has been saying. This was before all the rocket shit. I think it was before that. Yeah, it was before that one. Man, he tweets a lot of fucking garbage. Alright, this is the two-tweet thread right here. I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city. Minneapolis. A total lack of leadership. Either the very weak radical left mayor Jacob Frey gets his act together and bring the city under control, or we'll send in the National Guard and get the job done right. It's the governor who sends in the National Guard. In extreme cases, the president apparently can activate it federally, But that never happens, and it's not really supposed to happen. But the second tweet was so bad that Twitter actually put the warning on it. These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. The military is not the National Guard. Those are two different things. And the military, it's been illegal for the military to use force against U.S. civilians for 150 years, since the Civil War. Any difficulty, and we will assume control. So the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military, this is like, people seem to think this is an idiotic Trump tweet, and they seem to forget he is literally the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military. What he says happens. He is threatening to assume control of a city here, but he's not a fascist. And then he says, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. People deserve the death penalty without a trial. U.S. citizens by the military, death sentence for looting shit from a Target or whatever. Yeah, we're not trending fascist. We're now a fascist state. Now, if you eventually, like a day later, he clarified that he wasn't threatening shooting. He was just saying shooting was going to happen. But he was tweeting. He was quoting a segregationist police chief from Miami who actually did slaughter black people, who said that exact same thing from 1968. DC blackout now removed from UK trending. Figures. Of course, Donald Trump liked the fact that CNN was damaged. Of course he did. And of course, most of the media, and certainly the right-wingers, aren't saying that the police precinct is in the same building. Psychopathic. Great job by the White House. I was inside, watched every move, and couldn't have felt more safe. They let the protesters scream and rant, but whenever someone came, they were greeted with the most vicious dogs, the most ominous weapons I've ever seen. Many Secret Service agents just waiting for action. We put the young ones in the front line, sir. They love it. And good practice. Very cool and very professional. Well, yeah, that was then. What about last night? What about those protesters? Minneapolis State Police, or St. Paul, which is like right next to it, said that most everybody they arrested was from out of state, and a lot of them were white supremacists. And Donald Trump, with no investigation, says it's Antifa and the radical left. This is a PSYOP campaign. This is literally, George Orwell. Let's quote. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. I don't care about fucking Space Force. Still streaming. United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. If any of you guys have a link to something that's interesting, you're welcome to share it. I see people talking about Telegram. I don't know about that. I don't have an account. I'm not going to sign up for an account while I'm streaming. But I'll check it out later. All right, let's see. So, last tweet yesterday. Yeah, everybody protesting is just being fomented to hatred and anarchy by the lamestream media, because it's the lamestream media's fault that a cop kneeled on a man's neck for 9 minutes, 3 minutes of which he was unresponsive, which is intentionally murdering somebody. When you're passed out from choking and you keep choking, you are murdering them, and everybody knows that. Again, the most essential command. And then these were the people that trashed Seattle years ago. Who's paying for these people? I was appalled that 13 of Joe Biden's staff were donating money to bail people out in Minneapolis. Because everybody who was arrested for protesting is a bad person. He's not leading in all swing states. Okay, that's that. All right. What else is trending? What's with you guys see this thing with the FBI agent? Pretty funny.
Oh, you guys a racial profile thinking of somebody. I got him, bro. Stick the cuffs up. Sir. I got him. Stick the cuffs up. I'll take both of you motherfuckers right now. This guy got the cleanest record, y'all. I'll take both of you motherfuckers right now. Bro, I got him. Take the cuffs off. You guys are fucking stupid. You guys are the dumbest motherfuckers. Bro, I want to get tough. You are stupid. I don't know how you're the wrong move. Matter of fact, anybody can become a cop now. They can watch when they have one.
Anyway, he was insulting them a lot, but when they finally pull out his wallet, he's got an FBI badge in there. He's FBI. He makes him like uncuff him, and he calls the supervisor over and yells at him and blah blah blah. I don't know why that's got 370,000 tweets. I mean, it's interesting, but I think there's bigger shit going on. InfoWars did something stupid. They lit a homeless person's belongings on fire just so they could cover a fire. That's typical InfoWars idiocy. Yeah, but where were you? And where were you tweeting from? And were you tweeting from the White House after 1 p.m.? That's what we want to know. Not that it's okay now. Doesn't say where that is or what time it is. I saw some verified reporter tweeting that the White House turns off its lights every night at 11 p.m. Is that true? It's a good thing to find out. Let's see if we can find out. Well, they sure did last night. Pretty sure they don't usually go out. I don't think they care that much about power bills. No, nothing. A lot of people ask me about a DC blackout. I've been out near the White House since 4 a.m. Yeah, but what happened between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. I don't care that it's open now. I saw a video. I don't know if I'll see it again. I saw a video of somebody, live streaming, walking around, showing the area near the White House, this morning. It was like, I think, 8 a.m. or something like that. And, it's all quiet. It's all cleaned up. Now, he couldn't get near the White House because they had layers and layers of barricades out several hundred yards away. So you wouldn't even be able to see if there was blood anywhere or damage or anything else like that. So the fact that you can't get near to see what damage happened, and the fact that there's no blackout now, 8 hours after the fact, is irrelevant to the DC blackout. I don't know why people are saying that. Like, don't spread inaccurate news. You're spreading inaccurate news because this is not relevant to what people are talking about. I mean, everything I saw said it started at about 1 a.m., not 11 p.m. Also, some tweets did make it out, but it was people who had VPNs and stuff, so I don't know. I need to see people who are actually there. See, this is the exact same copy-pasted tweet that's all over the place. So she's just pinning the same copy-pasted shit that's all over the place. I think she's doing their work for them by accident is what it looks like. Who's Victoria Sanchez? I don't know what you're talking about. Where'd I go? I'm going the wrong places here. I have to say, Trump is making a compelling argument for Biden lately. I've clearly been advocating against voting for Biden on this channel, but I can't say Biden is going to label me a terrorist and use the FBI against me. So that's a compelling argument for Biden. See, we've got a lot more people on than I had before. I'm really need to go to work. I'm almost 2 hours late at this point. But just to get caught up, what's being alleged, and by a lot of people, just to get you caught up, is that, and you can check the tweets yourself, and it's still trending. This is all live. But they're alleging that around 1 p.m., at the White House, there were thousands of protesters. They broke through the barricades. They were on the White House lawn. They may or may not have lit fire to the guardhouse, and then the DC blackout started. The whole area blacked out. Nobody could get internet in and out. like social media was shut down. The last images that came out before then were of military with silencers on, and chaos. There was some chaos. A video I saw earlier that I haven't shown on the stream yet, I haven't seen it pop up again, was a video of somebody videoing a screen. It was a little fuzzy, but it was showing bodies on the street and alleging rivers of blood going down the gutter. Now, it's really easy to make shit up, but there's been hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of tweets asking where are the protesters, and nobody's been able to confirm, as far as I can tell, where they are. Where did these thousands of protesters go? Because when the lights came back on, they were all gone. It was all quiet, and nobody knows where they are. And now there's a disinformation campaign. There's the exact same tweet from all these different accounts, some of which were clearly hacked, and it's saying that nothing happened and that everybody went home. So all this shit happened, and then there was nothing coming out of near the White House after, I believe, 1 p.m. So there's like several hour period when there was no internet there. We just check the latest. I will have to call him back. Aha! We have a YouTube video. Bill, nobody can get close enough to the White House to confirm that. I've seen live videos this morning from the vicinity of the White House. Nobody can get within several hundred yards of the White House lawn. So I don't think it's been disconfirmed at this point. Some of the tweets that I tweeted this morning have already been deleted. So I know tweets are being deleted. Again, like I was talking about earlier, Trump labeled Antifa as a terrorist organization. There's a lot more people who've joined the stream since then. Whether you agree with Antifa or not, that's indefensible. You can't defend that. I just wanted to cover this again before I have to wrap it up because more people have joined. Antifa is just people who oppose fascism. That's all it is. There's no one organization. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of separate Antifa organizations who have different methodologies and oppose fascism in different ways. Most people that are in Antifa just peacefully and legally oppose fascism using their constitutional rights. I know people who are Antifa, and I haven't actually joined them, unfortunately. I've worked too much. But I know people who are Antifa, and all they do is counter-protest. All they do is go with protesters to protect them and defend them. There's a lot of people who are at Charlottesville who said they owed their lives to Antifa being there to protect the lines when all of a sudden the neo-Nazis charged them. That's what they do. They train in defense. They've never killed anybody, ever. And yet they're the terrorists, and the KKK and Proud Boys aren't. There's a lot of suppression going on here. The media is not reporting stuff. There's a lot of people alleging a lot of shootings, a lot of deaths. Proud Boys were supposedly shooting in Portland, and I'm having trouble finding any media sources reporting on any of this kind of stuff. So even if you disagree with Antifa, even if you think they're overeager and they paint everybody as fascists, I mean, you have a constitutional right to be wrong, right? You have the constitutional right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of press. Labeling everybody who considers themselves Antifa when there's no main Antifa organization terrorists is rescinding their constitutional rights to freedom of speech, freedom of the assembly, and freedom of press. There's no justification for that. That is simply fascism. And tweeting that yesterday and then today hearing about protesters disappearing, which can happen when you're designated as terrorists. All of a sudden you lose a whole lot of rights. Very concerning. Those are cops trying to break glass right there. Looking furtively around. Thank you, Steve Smith. I was sleeping, so I did want that confirmed. Steve says he was tracking the riots and protests from MD Mountain Standard Time zone and saw the same abrupt drop-off of anything coming out of DC in general, not just the White House locale. Well, the only people I saw that were saying they were able to upload stuff was after 4 a.m. in the morning. Nobody's saying it's been shut down all day. People are tweeting stuff like, oh, look, I'm live now in Washington, D.C. It's 10 a.m. in the morning, so this whole thing's fake. No, I'm assuming it's just people who woke up and saw that trending, and then they wanted to say it's fake, but when they didn't really understand why it was trending. Well, Jamie, I was showing earlier, I was protesting on Saturday. Just a second, somebody's tweeting me. Yes. Okay, I was protesting on Saturday, and we marched all the way from the courthouse square in Santa Rosa. It's like a mile or two to the police department. And when we got there, very interesting. The police knew we were coming. The whole march, I didn't see one single cop. And I was thinking, this is very mature of them. This is smart. They're just, like, the best way to handle protests over police brutality is what they did in Flint, Michigan, where the police chief took his helmet off, put his baton down, and asked them what they wanted, and they said, walk with us, and he walked with them. Showed solidarity. No violence in Flint. because they were heard. Riots are the language of the unheard. If you don't want riots, hear them out. That was the smart thing. The second best thing to do is just to avoid them entirely, because when you show up with cops and give people a target, it's going to amplify things. So Santa Rosa was doing the smart thing initially, I thought, and they were just, you couldn't see any cops. We finally got to the police station. They'd cleared out the whole parking lot except for one cop car. There were people posted on the roof. There's barricades set up around the door. But other than that, you couldn't see anybody. So they had all this time to set up, barricades, all this time to set up people like 3 blocks over that had a drone watching us and get on the roof. And for some reason, they left one cop car in the parking lot. Why would you do that? Here. Stop. So there you can see it's the sheriff department, and should be able to see the one cop car shortly if you can't. Here, why don't I do this? There are signs in the way. See the one cop car over there? Cleared out the whole parking lot. Left one cop car. Why would they do that? It's bait. Obviously it's bait. They wanted somebody to smash it out so that they could justify their protests. Now, everybody knew it was bait. I was there for 45 minutes. We went to the jailhouse. We came back. Car didn't have a scratch on it when I left. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining, guys. I see a lot more people came on and watched than usual. Appreciate it. You can follow my channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Re-Vera Life. All my stuff's in the description. And in the about for my channel. I appreciate subscribing. I want to talk to people. I love good conversations, people, whether you agree, disagree. I'd love to have a chat on Discord, live, recorded, or not. I'm all about helping people make their life better. I have a certificate in hypnotherapy. I've counseled therapy. I'm very much into critical thinking. I love debating with people who disagree with me. I'm a humanist, an atheist, Bernie Sanders supporting Libertarian Market Socialist. And a decade ago, and the entire rest of my life previous, I was a homeschooled extremist, fundamentalist, right-wing nutcase who did nothing but listen to right-wing radio, was young earth creationists, Tea Party, like the whole nine. And I escaped. I didn't know anybody, didn't talk to anybody. It really was a couple people I talked to online that planted enough doubt for me to start taking a more objective look at it. And I've worked through my entire worldview in a methodological way and come to where I am now. And I think that critical approach is very beneficial, and that's what I try to educate people on. So please join. I'm going to cut now because Vosh is about to start anyway, and I think a bunch of you guys probably came over from his chat, which I appreciate. So we can all go watch Vosh, and I can get to work.